Hey, what's going on, everyone? How you guys doing? My name is Matt Jarbo. This is $3 Theater, and this is kind of like just an off the cuff rant sort of thing about the Snyder Cut and why people want to see it. So, over the course of the past couple days, it's gotten to this heated point, and I've engaged in it as well, both on Twitter and here on YouTube. And I've been battling people in multiple different facets as a result of it, partly because it's kind of fun to keep proving those people wrong. Because I'm an egotistical narcissist, I do YouTube, I have to be. But I do want to talk a little bit, though, about why the fan base is as supportive as they are for this cut and why they want to see it and why there's the pushback. For the last couple years, ever since the opening weekend of BVS, Zack Snyder has taken nothing but an unhealthy amount of shit at the hands of the enthusiast press, at the hands of the entertainment media, at the hands of people, in the mouths of people who want nothing more than to crap on this movie and to crap on that franchise because it was the cool thing to do. Make no mistake, it was absolutely the cool thing to do. But I'm going to be honest with you. When it comes to those pundits, their influence is probably about as big as their penis. Not very. And I say that because as we've learned over the years, the influence of these people is very minimal. When they want to push something for positive, they can never get it. Go back to Dredd 2012. The opening weekend of Dredd was not good, but the critics all loved it, so they begged their audience to go and see the movie the next weekend. Go see it, please go see it. We want you to go see it. Crickets. The following summer, Guillermo del Toro's Pacific Rim came out. Didn't do very well. Not here in the country, at least. Monday morning, film critics, go see it, go support Guillermo del Toro. This is kaiju versus mechs. It is what we want. They begged their audiences to go and see it. And guess what happened? Nothing. The audiences didn't go and see it because the audiences just don't really listen to these people. I'm sure a couple people did. I'm sure. I worked at a movie theater when Pacific Rim came out. I was asking around. We didn't get any bump from anyone who was reading Slash Film or any of those other enthusiast sites. The influence in that era doesn't work when it comes to positivity. It just doesn't. It's much easier to hate on something than it is to like it. I know this because I got really popular and I made an absolute, oh my God, load of money complaining about The Last Jedi, a movie that I still fundamentally don't like, but I've backed off of it quite a bit, and I have now focused my efforts on trying to find more things about it to enjoy than not. Doesn't mean I like the movie. It just means I want to have the peace of mind of not hating it when I think of it, because there's not that much life out there for us. We have one life to lead, so why spend it being angry all the time? It's easy to do on the internet, especially when you're stuck in the middle of a pandemic. You can't go anywhere. But the Snyder Cut movement is not one that has been formed during a pandemic. It's been one that's been out for years. And they've been laughed at, and they've been tormented, and they've been nitpicked and mocked and belittled and besmirched and defamed by a multitude of people who want to just play the victim when a couple of people say mean things on the internet. When you do this as a job, it doesn't matter what it is. People will say mean things on the internet, and some of us can handle it poorly. That is something I know firsthand. But I'm here to tell you that if you really pay attention to the groups of people that have formed around the Release the Snyder Cut movement, they don't take that level of harassment well. They don't take it well. They don't like it. They do call those people out. But the problem with Twitter is everyone's got burner accounts. Everyone has burner accounts. So it's not hard to fire up another one when you can log into multiples on your phone, by the way. 2 button presses and you're on a whole new account that no one knows is you, to talk all the crap you want, and no one knows it. So what are you going to do in that situation? And we don't even know if some of these critics are creating burner accounts to attack themselves in order to then showcase it to, well, profit off of that visibility. I'm being harassed, the journalist cries out as they slap himself in the face. We don't know. Speculation. But when it comes to the Snyder Cut movement itself, these are good people. They've raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for charity, for mental health awareness, because of what happened with Snyder's daughter and how they don't want any other parent to grieve over the loss of their child. They've done a lot to raise awareness over this. And in some cases, there's been success. One of my favorite ones was back in 2006, a CBS show called Jericho ended after its first season. CBS unceremoniously canceled the show. Good show. But the last word Skeet Ulrich said in the first season, final episode, was nuts. And there's a whole story behind it, which I'm not going to get into. So you know what the fans did? The fans started sending nuts to CBS. And I'm talking nuts and nuts and nuts and nuts and nuts. They raised money to take out ads. I believe in the Hollywood Reporter or Variety, one of those. I believe they flew a banner over CBS in LA. And finally, after months and months of constantly calling them and really working together, CBS finally said, okay, fine, we'll do it, fine. And they commissioned 7 more episodes with a very limited budget, but they did it. And the show ultimately came and it went, it died again, but it still got a second chance. Showing the power of the fandom can save something when you work together. Now, look at Sonic the Hedgehog. That's a recent example. Trailer came out last year. It was god awful. It was terrible. It looked, oh my God, horrific. After a couple days of peer pressure from the internet, Paramount said, all right, we're going to delay it from November to February. We're going to go back. We're going to fix it. And they did. They fixed it. And it looked great. It looked a lot better. The movie came out, was estimated to pull in about 30 to 35 million, pulled in 70 plus. Went on to gross an absolute buttload of money and is well received by most people who saw it, casual and hardcore, because the movie itself was funny, but it needed that look to get there. Fans can move mountains when they work together. And that's what the Snyder Cut movement's been doing. They've been traveling up the river or down the river, collecting people as they go and trying to get Warner's attention. And Warner, they know. There's no way that they can't. What we were dealing with, and again, if you pay attention to what's gone on with Warner Brothers and everything, especially under Kevin Tushihara, they are the ones who screwed over Zack Snyder. Not only after BVS, but with Justice League too. They're the ones who wanted the movie coming out in November in order to get that extra bonus. Kevin Tushihara was exposed for this at the end of 2017 by Humberto Gonzalez via The Wrap. And not too long ago, he was let go of Warner's. He stepped down because of impropriety with an actress he was dating and using his influence to try to get her acting jobs. And he's the one who called for the hard 2-hour cut of Joss Whedon's Justice League. And you figure after the success of BVS, 5 weeks, number 1, home video sales, summer 2016, that you figured that they would have released, I don't know, the extended cut of what Joss Whedon had done. Something, put together something that would be a bit more cohesive and coherent and reflective of what Snyder had set out to do, whether you liked it or not, but at least get to the end, close enough. No. They didn't. I think there was one deleted scene on the Blu-ray. One. We know they shot more footage. We know how much footage is out there. But they wanted to pump and dump this movie. They screwed over the fan base. They did. There's no denying it. They absolutely did. Their motives, their motivations were all financially driven. Instead of waiting, delaying the movie, getting it done right by its creator, they brought in a dude whose visual aesthetic is almost the exact opposite of Zack Snyder and wanted him to recreate the same kind of success he did for Avengers. It was an impossible task that Joss Whedon could in no way ever succeed in. And I believe everyone out there can agree with that. I know Campy a few days ago was all like, no, Joss Whedon did what no one else could do. He saved the movie. He didn't save the movie. He gave us a movie, but he didn't save the movie. There's a difference. And so the fans, knowing all this information about Warner Brothers, knowing how they treated Zack Snyder, knowing what they did, knowing what Tushihara did, knowing everything, you figure at some point they would have come out. This is why they've mobilized, why they get more people involved. The DC fan base is a very loyal and dedicated fan base. And they want to see good movies. Movies that maybe a couple years ago weren't seen as that good, but you know what? As time goes on, I've met more people that have told me that they love Man of Steel when they thought they didn't like it at first. People who've told me that they love BVS, the Ultimate Edition, because it made the theatrical, so it completely built off of what that 30 minutes was cut out, which, by the way, was an executive push at Warner's. And now what we have is this movement of people, anti-Snyder Cut people, that are trying to besmirch and bemoan and defame all the Snyder Cut folk that are trying to push Warner Brothers to release it via HBO Max. They don't want to see the movie in order to change the course of the DCEU. They don't. If you look at what's out right now, what's coming down the pipeline, everything is DCEU related with the exception of the Batman, which I still think is probably going to end up finding some way to tie in. Could be a Flashpoint scenario. I have no idea. We don't know yet. But the Snyderverse is still alive and well, and they're still profiting off of it, and they're still following that narrative. They're doing all those things. So clearly, they're not done with Snyder and his vision just yet. So it makes sense to want that people would want to see this version that to them could be the definitive cut. And if you want to argue about how this isn't a thing, well, I'd like to bring you to Blade Runner. Warner's proudly sold the 5-disc Blu-ray copy of Blade Runner back in 2007 or 2008, I think 2007, for the 25th anniversary. You could get all 5 versions of that movie. 5. Theatrical, foreign, work print. There's another copy in there. And then the final cut. And the final cut is what is deemed by many to be the definitive cut of the movie. Not the one released theatrically, but the one released many, many, many years later. That was finished. And that was put out there and people could see it. And guess what? 2017, we got Blade Runner 2049. So there's precedent. And not only fan movements saving films, but precedent in what can happen when the studio allows the movie to get finished in the way that it was intended. Or at least that the director had at some point wanted. I don't want to give all of it to Ridley Scott, but Ridley Scott and Zack Snyder are very similar in a couple ways. They both work better in the long form. They are long form storytellers dealing with a short form theatrical system. That's why the director's cuts of Ridley Scott's movies are oftentimes better than what we get in theaters. It's the reason why Zack Snyder's director's cuts are oftentimes better than what we get in theaters. The unrated director's cut of Dawn of the Dead, better movie than Dawn of the Dead. The unrated cut or the director's cut of Sucker Punch, much better than what we got in theaters. The director's cut or the ultimate edition of Watchmen, way better than theatrical. And the theatrical was pretty tight. This is the world Snyder operates in. Fans of his know this. Fans of his are the ones that are pushing for that to come on out. Fans of his are the ones who are saying if you follow his career at all, you know precisely what to expect when he gets to work in the long form. It's been proven time and time and time again. But now, in the last couple of days, it feels like a lot of people have been kind of running on that anti-train, forgetting all the past, forgetting all the history, forgetting everything. And I ask myself, why? Why attack it constantly? Why not push for it to be finished? If you enjoyed Blade Runner 2049 and you saw the final cut, and to you that's the definitive version of Blade Runner, then why be against BVS? Or why be against Justice League getting a final cut? It doesn't make any sense unless it's financially motivating. As I pointed out before, with these websites and these pundits trying to push people to go and see good movies in order to make them successful. It's sad that Dredd found its home on home video and never got a sequel. It really is. But we're in an age now where social media connects us and social media brings us together and can help form these movements. So why would the anti-Snyder Cut people be so against it unless they were getting something out of it? Fans want to see the finished version of what Snyder had intended to get a conclusion to that trilogy. We knew it wasn't going to necessarily be two films. They had originally planned for Justice League Part 1 and Justice League Part 2, and those plots ended up getting scrapped. But from my understanding, looking at the Snyder Cut of Justice League, what he had intended would have at least brought about a conclusion to that trilogy of films, giving us the Superman that fans wanted with Man of Steel, the one who underwent the transformation and to become the Boy Scout that everybody wanted him to be. That is something that I think would have come out of that. And it's something I think eventually we will see. That's the whole point here, guys. When you look at this whole scenario, when you break it down, and there's so much more that I'm not even talking about. There's so much more in the timeline. There's so much more data and assets and information that you can tell that a lot of people who are anti-Snyder Cut have never once waded into the pool of what is there. They haven't gone to forsnydercut.com and looked at Fiona's work. They haven't gone and talked to people who've raised the hundreds of thousands of dollars for suicide awareness prevention in order, who've gone and pushed the Snyder Cut, gotten billboards, gone and made t-shirts and flyers to pass out at Comic-Con. All the people out there that have spread a lot of positivity and love and have gotten more fans to come on board with those movies, they're ignoring them because it's beneficial for them to do so. It's one of the reasons why I if someone comes out and they're anti-Snyder Cut and I listen to their arguments and they just go, BBS was bad or something along those lines, I just, whatever, man. You don't know what you're talking about. I mean, you can have an opinion. Everyone can have an opinion. But if you really look at the data and you look at the information and you follow the rabbit hole and the evidence where it leads, there's so much more we didn't get to see. There's so much more that exists. Go back and watch the 2016 Comic-Con trailer for Justice League. Look at that trailer and ask yourself, is this the version I wanted to see? And then watch the final trailer for what Joss Whedon did and compare the two of them. It's like night and day. Tonally different. Ben Affleck gained like 10 pounds because he was going through that rough patch. It was a much different movie. Not a terrible movie, but a mediocre, underwhelming film. Not to say that the Snyder Cut is going to be the godsend of everything. It might not be. It might not even be good. It could be absolutely terrible. But at this point, you need to let fans make up their mind for themselves. And that's all Snyder Cut fans are asking for. And they're willing to put the money down. They're willing to pay for it. They're willing to go see it in theaters. They are willing to shill it. They are willing to act as the P&A for Warner Brothers in order to make sure more people are aware of it. It is literally a win-win situation if Warner's releases it. What I don't get about the anti-people is, what do you have to lose by it existing? Why does it bother you so much that people want to see it? What is it about it that really just pains you on a personal, human level? I don't know. I want you to ask yourself that if you made it this far. I don't think you probably did. But I want you to ask yourself that. I really do. I want you to ask yourself why you hate it so much. Why it bothers you. Does it keep you awake at night? Do you toss and turn? And do you wake up at 3 a.m, all just sweaty, can't sleep, upset, tired, and you scroll the hashtag on Twitter looking for something to hate on or something to find a reason in your life. I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm just an idiot on YouTube. Anyway, I want to hear your thoughts. If you guys made it this far, do me a solid. Type Zack Snyder in the comment box. I appreciate that. Like the video. Give it a thumbs up. And I'll talk to you guys all later. Have yourself a great day. And peace out.